The following podcast is sponsored by Robots vs. Dinosaurs. I'm your host, Louis G.
Disclaimer, this podcast is about to spoil several movies from 6 to 20 years old. Lou, read off the list.
Today, Robots vs. Dinosaurs will be spoiling these classic NES and arcade games for you, the listener. Double Dragon, Ninja Gaiden, Super Mario Bros., Mario Bros. 2, Mario Bros. 3, Donkey Kong, Rad Racer, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mega Man 2, RC Pro-Am, F1 Dream, Zelda 2, and Contra. Hello and welcome to Robots vs. Dinosaurs, the podcast where we watch a movie every week and then try to determine which one is cooler, robots or dinosaurs. I'm your host, Louis G, and with me as always is my co-host, a new co-host every week. This week, I am talking to my friend, robot enthusiast, robo fan, dino fan. He streams on Twitch. He's an all-around good dude, Joe Rosa. Hello, Joe.
Hello.
Dope. We got some robot sounds. We got some dinosaur sounds. Excellent. Joe, why don't you tell the listeners what movie we're going to be talking about today?
Wow. What a surprise that it's going to be The Wizard.
The Wizard of Oz? The Wiz? Which one?
Oh, The Wizard of video games.
That's correct. 1989, directed by Todd Holland, The Wizard, starring Fred Savage, Christian Slater. We got Beau Bridges, Jenny Lewis. Who else is in this movie?
Oh, man. As I was watching, I was trying to see, have I seen any of these guys from anywhere else? And I couldn't pinpoint anyone at all.
Beau Bridges is an interesting one because as soon as I saw him, I thought it was John Ritter. For like 2 or 3 scenes, I thought this was John Ritter. They have like the same eyes.
He's one of those guys that's in like a lot of things, but you never remember what it is, but you've seen him 100 times.
And they're always like a dad or a stepdad. That's. I think that's why I thought it was John Ritter. You
think his agent just calls him up, it's like, "Hey, you want to be a dad in a movie?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever."
Yeah, we've got a mid-teen drama about a broken family. Beau Bridges like, "Yeah, no, I've got my tan jacket. I'm on my way. Don't worry."
He still has the hat from the Wizard. He brings it everywhere he goes. It's like if I go through his IMDb, there's a lot of stuff. I'm like, "Oh yeah, he's in that," but I haven't seen any of these things.
Yeah, a lot of credits, but nothing really big that you can instantly recall. But I think he's really good. I think he's especially good in this movie.
I think a lot of the actors in this movie, the synergy is just they picked a really good cast.
Yes.
I couldn't imagine replacing any of them, especially with Bridges and his son. I don't know his name. I always forget
Christian
his name.
Slater.
Nick Woods in the movie. Their bond just evolves over time. It's they just have a synergy. It's they've picked up the phone, they called each other, and there's just hey, what's up, man? They pick up a conversation as if it's ended and it comes up again. We're picking up where we left off. They don't skip a beat. They just go.
They bond over video games at some point. Christian Slater just randomly hooks up a Nintendo to a TV, I think at a repair shop, and then the dad ends up getting hooked on it later. At first, he kind of criticizes him for wasting his time with these video games, but then he himself gets hooked on, in particular, he gets hooked on Legend of Zelda 2.
Yeah, he's point, I'm at the end of the palace.
Yeah, I got past the river demon.
He's so against video games, but he's the one who bought it. Now he's hooked on it randomly.
Yep. So, okay, Joe, you introduced yourself. I introduced you as a Robo fan, as a Dino fan. You introduced yourself with that excellent sound effect, encapsulating both. Tell me, before we get into this movie, I have 2 questions that I just want you to answer. What is a robot?
Oh, wow. A robot is just it's like a little boy's fantasy growing up as an anime. It's just Gundam, Astro Boy. It could save the world. It can produce stuff in the world. It could destroy the world, which we've seen in a lot of stuff. The robot is just the brains of a human in metal and just going.
The brains of a human in metal. That's so good. Yeah, it sounds like you're saying there's endless possibilities with a robot.
You never know how far a robot can go. Growing up, you had 2XL, the little bear robot that read the book along with you.
Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah. And it was just so basic. And now you look at toys in the store, it's like, the robot can do what now? And it's just like, it never ends. It's like the never ending story, but with a robot.
Yo, that's that's perfect. We were talking about previous episode. We were talking about the Mars rover, and I had put a question to my guest that week about if a robot could understand the concept of a wish, because we've seen in a few sci-fi movies where a robot gets a chance to wish for something. Mm-hmm. What would a robot wish for? And usually in sci-fi movies, the answer is it would wish to be human. It would wish to be human. Have some sort of human experience. And I feel like that's very egotistical. And we were discussing, what do you think the Mars rover would dream about or wish for?
Oh, wow. I think he just wants to come home. I would imagine he wishes like he could just come home, put his briefcase up, put his jacket off, take his little hat off, and just like just see his wife and kids. I think that's what he wants. He's like
Wally.
Like he's been up there for so long and he's just dirty and broken down. I think he just wants to date like a spa day.
Interesting. We my guest and I on that episode, we went in a very different direction. We thought, well, once he's done exploring Mars, that's what he's limited to. He has tires and a solar powered body. He can only traverse the terrain on Mars. So maybe what he would wish for, is what if I could explore a gas planet? What if I could go further out into the solar system? I think that it would not wish for human things. But I do think it's interesting that part of your definition is that robots are very human-like and have human ambitions, like saving the world, or potentially human, well, I guess it's still an ambition, but ending the world, and villain ambitions.
It almost feels like every time you hear about him on Mars, it almost has like human aspects when you read the story, like how they describe him. And it's just, that's why I'm thinking like this dude's been up there. He needs to like relax. Like, he wants to go he wants to go on another adventure, but like, how long has he been up there? He needs to go home.
Yeah. I think either way, I'd be interested to know for firsthand from the robot, like what would it wish for? So another interesting thing that you said in there was a Gundam. I have some questions about Gundam because I've never really gotten into exploring Gundam myself. In my understanding, a Gundam is like a mech suit that you're inside of, and I guess it like responds to your movements and your controls as like a human inside of it. Is that true?
I would say that's about it. I think it's more advanced than like a Power Ranger Megazord.
How so? Can it operate without you inside it?
I don't even remember. I want to say it can. I don't even remember. I haven't seen Gundam in so long. I want to say they could, because they have the bad robots, and I don't think there's people in the bad robots. They have those green robots. I forget what they're called. They're kind of like the silly putties, where it's just like they're mindless drones. I want to say they're like drones. Yeah, so I would assume so.
The Goombas of robots.
Walking off cliffs.
Okay. So my second question to you, what is a dinosaur?
Oh boy. Oof, what are dinosaurs? I thought I used to know what dinosaurs were until I watched the last Jurassic Park film that came out, and I was like, I don't want to know anything about dinosaurs anymore because you guys ruined dinosaurs for me.
For full coverage, you can check out Robots vs. Dinosaurs second episode, where we cover Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom in its entirety.
That movie, man, just
it's a wild ride.
I don't even think it's a wild ride. It's just like I grew up with we grew up in the 80s and 90s. We had dinosaurs were everywhere. We had the toys. They were in movies. I remember growing up watching We're Back, and I was like, I love dinosaurs. They're so cool. These kids are running around New York with dinosaurs. I was like, I want a dinosaur. And now Jurassic Park is like, you don't want these. You don't want those.
Yeah, they don't mix well with us. We don't want them around. They're just going to destroy everything.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
If you walked outside right now, what would you rather see outside? Robots walking around doing whatever. Maybe there's some evil ones, or just wild dinosaurs.
Easy question. It's the robots for sure.
You don't want to go camping and just instead of bears, it's just a dinosaur.
No, listen, I Joe, this is a very good question. I I, like you, imagined a possible future where I could have a pet dinosaur one day, where I could, ride dinosaurs. I can't even ride a horse. If I needed to ride a horse, I would not be able to. If there was some weird action movie setting that I found myself in, where the only escape or the only possibility was to charge forward on a horse.
What if I told you we spared no expense?
So if a dinosaur just suddenly showed up, man, if I had to compete with it in any way, or if I had to try to tame it, I'd be at a loss. I'm sorry.
One good story is in my town, a deer got into it broke the glass in Old Navy and got into Old Navy while it was open.
Oh no.
People freaked out over a deer. Imagine any type of dinosaur just being anywhere. Do we even have cars?
Yeah, even
you get dinosaur insurance?
Yes.
I can't come to work. I hit a dinosaur today.
Oh man. Yeah, a pterodactyl made off with my cat. I'm sorry.
Worried about seagulls eating your fries on the beach.
Yeah, I don't honestly, I don't want to live in the world where we're first adapting to living with dinosaurs. I do want to live in the world of Dinotopia or of Dino Riders, where we've put metal saddles on them, where we've basically turned them into mecha cyborgs or Gundams that we can pilot.
Yeah.
I want to live in that very rad 90s cartoon world.
I think the closest thing I've come to a dinosaur, growing up, you touch those models and stuff that they have the theme parks and such. But VR is getting really wild with stuff. And I did go to Dave and Buster's where they had the Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom VR.
Okay.
It basically gives you the controllers and I think you're taking pictures of the dinosaurs in the Fallen Kingdom, and it looked very real. It felt like I could probably touch it. It was this is as close as I want to come to a dinosaur in the real world. That's as close as I want to be. Virtual aspect, it's tricking my mind and it's not real because I don't want to take it off and go, oh yeah, there actually are dinosaurs. What am I doing?
And what's funny is you're technically inside of a robot having this experience. A robot is making it possible.
Right. The AI is just we win again.
Yep. Yeah.
Because you're not putting a dinosaur skull in your head and going, well, I'm going into VR right now. It's
But you know what? That was the original VR before we had that. Just a caveman putting that on his head and being like, I'm a dinosaur and scaring another one. So I guess it's safe to say this game, this VR game that you played was more entertaining for you than the movie Fallen Kingdom?
I would say absolutely. I think if Fallen Kingdom was more of a 3D experience, like a ride, I think that was the better aspect of that.
So what if you said this was as close as you'd want to get to a dinosaur. What if they took this experience, this VR experience, one step further and they did the 4D movie experience?
I knew you were going to say that.
They pumped smells in and it just smelled like dinosaurs.
I would be about that, a little stinky and, it's, I forget where I was, where I went to a Jurassic Park theme where it's you're kind of in Jurassic Park and they had the dung there and you put your hand in it, even though it's rubber and stuff, you put your hand in there. It's ugh, I have to find a picture. I'll send it to you. But
please do. I'll link to it.
That was an experience, but I want the VR more than the hands-on.
Yeah. I'm not desperate to go digging through piles of dinosaur dung, but I wouldn't turn down the opportunity. Right. Honestly, if
it's fake, but it's
presented to me.
Yeah. If it was real, I'd be ooh.
I have one more question in general before we start talking about this movie. What is a wizard?
Oh, a wizard for this movie or a wizard?
Joe, I'm just asking a question. What is a wizard?
Well, if we're going to define wizard, we're going to define wizard for this movie where, how? The wizard in this movie is some kind of magical being to be doing all this stuff, because throughout the movie, they are so blown away that this kid is getting these high scores in these games. Is he magic? Is he a freak? But then they use a lot of terms. One of the reasons I wanted to watch this movie was because, there's a dinosaur at the end, but they do call him a cyborg because they believe this guy is a cyborg.
Yes, I wrote that down. Some of the what they call video heads, which are like the bullies that hang out in diners
Yes.
and arcades across America, challenging kids to video games for money and then beating them up afterwards and taking back their money. They're called video heads, at least in the world of this movie. One of them says, "What is this kid? Some kind of cyborg?" So definitely we have arguably at least 2 robots in this movie.
He's like
cyborg.
A Penn and Teller type or
Yes.
David Blaine. Like he's pulling tricks, but he's not doing anything. It's just everyone thinks he's doing some kind of magic, putting like a blanket over that. What you're saying about the video heads, it's like they lose the bet and it's like, no, you cheated. It's like you must have been using magic or something. Like that is the wizard to me. It's just...
It's inconceivable how he's getting these scores, which I would argue he might be some sort of time wizard, because there is a scene where he's playing Double Dragon for about 3 minutes. And in that time, he gets a score of 50,000. And Fred Savage is shocked about this. And
50,000? You got 50,000 in Double Dragon?
Yeah, this is pretty much what kickstarts their journey. Have you played Double Dragon?
I have.
I don't think it's possible to get 50,000 points in that short of amount of time. Just,
thinking about it, I probably should have played it for this podcast to see if it's possible. We should have did like a little test run. Like, how fast does it take to get 50,000?
Let's put a pin in that. Let's create a challenge. Let's put that to the listeners. If you can prove us wrong, show us your video of you getting to 50,000 in Double Dragon and time it. Let's see how long it takes you to do it. Joe, are you going to take this challenge?
I'm going to take this challenge. We're not going to movie magic it. Or, where all of a sudden it's 32,000, all of a sudden it's 50,000. Like,
Excellent. I'm very curious to see the results of this. Awesome. We are going to follow up on this in a future episode. In the next episode, we're going to have the answer for this. Awesome. So, okay. I'm not. This is one of the weird details of this movie in general. To me, is the games that they picked. This is very much a kid's idea of a video game competition, because you've probably like had friends over and like you just have a new game and you both want to play it, and it doesn't matter if it's a 1-player game. You're gonna like figure out a way to turn it into a 2-player game.
The 2-player aspect is who can get the highest score.
Right. Nowadays, a lot of multiplayer games, you're playing at the same time. You're either like a cooperative campaign, or you're playing a fighting game of some sort where you're trying to eliminate each other, a shooting game where you're trying to eliminate each other at the same time. But yeah, this is classic multiplayer gaming in this movie, where you're alternating whose turn it is. You're watching each other play and seeing who gets a higher score on their turn.
You're building up that own you have one controller and you're building up an imaginary competition between yourself and whoever's next to you based on the scoreboard. And like everyone wants their name up on there.
And what's funny is, or not funny, but just interesting or fascinating in this movie is the list of games that they choose, because a lot of them are like adventure games that technically you do get a score in. And I just have never played them from the perspective of trying to get a higher score. It's always like, I'm just trying to complete the adventure.
I will say there is the one scene where Lucas plays, I know we're getting a little far ahead, but he plays Rad Racer. And I went to Yestercades, to Retro Arcade, where you pay hourly to play whatever games they have. They did have Rad Racer there, and I did play it. And that game is so easy. It was easy for me as a kid. It's easy now. And I was like, they made them look like a fool, because like Lucas is like, oh, I'm so good. And like, Rad Racer is not that hard. It's the one he uses the power glove.
Power glove, yeah.
I should have taken a picture of my score. I got to the second checkpoint, like they show a little tidbit what he did, but like, that game's not hard to begin with.
Maybe that's why he uses the power glove, because it like makes it harder with the power glove. So it was like
because the power glove doesn't actually work to the way they show it.
So it was like an extra challenge for himself. Okay, so yes, this movie, some of the people call Jimmy they call him a wizard, they call him a cyborg. I want to be very delicate about this. They call him a lot of names, they call him a lot of things, they describe him in a lot of different ways. And I'm going to just say up front, I'm not qualified in any way to diagnose somebody, whether or not they're like on the spectrum. Anything that this movie is sort of circling around when adults are talking about Jimmy. Did you pick up on like the way adults kind of talk about him
they almost want to say it, and it's like the director's like waving his hands like, no, it's a Nintendo, it's for kids, don't say that. And it's just, they want to say he has something, but then they change the conversation or say, no, my son's not like that, this and that. But like, you can tell at the same time, it also could be because of the trauma he had, not necessarily a mental issue.
Yeah, the movie itself doesn't exactly land on an answer, but I did sort of keep track of like different ways that people talked about Jimmy, and some of them less kind than others. So in some scenes they called him like brainless. Haley I do like as a character, but she does at one point say he's shy a few bricks, which kind of ties into this theme of one of his teachers early in the movie says he has a fixation with buildings. He's always stacking things, and she thinks he's searching for a way to express himself. Someone else, I think a doctor, describes him as a heavily traumatized boy. Someone else calls him a space case. So it's kind of like it's all over the map.
They show him building with the bricks, I believe, after the cops bring him back, and it's the mom and the stepdad having the conversation what to do with him next to put him in institution. And then the second time he builds is like more in the middle towards the end when like they kind of get robbed. He's building with the popcorn.
Yes. And Fred Savage is very concerned when this happens, and he says he builds these things. That means he hasn't gotten better. So from his perspective, his brother there's something wrong with him. And like I said, I wanted to approach this delicately. Like the movie, some characters are very callous about it, and some characters, especially the ones close to him, either are very kind to him or they like grow towards him. They grow to like be kinder to him.
Right.
And this is, I think, a very honest time capsule of 1989 and like the way that people probably would have approached a kid like this. You know what I mean? For good or bad.
I feel like if they made this movie now, I think they kind of would have bullied Jimmy more. But they've done the respectful thing of making another character to be bullied. Fred Savage's character is the one who's protecting Jimmy no matter what. He takes the punch from when he's trying to get the lunchbox back.
Yeah, that lunchbox is introduced very, very early on in the movie as a MacGuffin. It's actually, I always like seeing what the opening shot of a movie looks like. I like paying attention to that because to me, it's like the filmmaker's way of letting you know right away whose movie is this? Whose point of view are we going to be taking throughout this movie?
Yeah, it gives you that world building. And like that's such a staple for like 80s and 90s movies.
This the opening shot in particular is a very patient shot of just the kid with his lunch pail walking along the roadside with these desert hills in the background. I think it's in Utah.
It definitely is. I definitely wrote that in my notes that Jimmy lives in Utah. I don't remember why I wrote that. I think it was because they're like, we're in Utah, we got to get to California. I was like, I'm gonna write that down.
It's very beautiful. It's very picturesque. And he's just sort of like walking very slowly towards the camera, carrying that lunch pail. And I noted, just to like mark this, that the ending of the movie is a mirror of this shot. It's this like the Buick or whatever, the dad Bobridge's car or truck with Haley and Christian Slater and the whole family, and they're driving.
Yeah, it's like everything's okay now. Like everything's better. The family's together. Everything is settled, and it's just like a happier scene. Yeah,
it's a really, really nice little like artistic balance for the opening shot and the ending shot mirroring each other.
Yeah, because I wrote down they really called a helicopter to come find Jimmy. And it's like this isn't the first time he's like wandered off, but it also makes me wonder why he can't personally say, hey, I want to do this thing. Because I also wrote down there should be a drinking game for anyone who's watched this movie of how many times they say the word California. They say it a lot. And in succession.
It's one of the few words that Jimmy says throughout the whole movie. He's very much silent. He very much just sort of reflects and responds to things. I wrote down just a few of the things that he says because there were so few. At one point, he tells Corey, I think Corey is ready to give up and thinks, I think it's when they meet Lucas. And he's like, there's no way that we could win this tournament. And he says, Corey, I don't want to quit.
I don't remember if that's like right after they got bullied or right
before. I might be remembering the wrong place.
Or before, because it is after Lucas, because he's discouraged that Lucas beat him. But Jimmy didn't even play to technically get beaten. It was just more of a showcase. Because they were definitely in the outdoor movie theater, or the drive-in, I should say.
Yeah, so, that was a cool setting. That was a really cool setting, like the drive-in theater field.
Yeah, the bullies came and then like, oh, we give up. And Haley's walking one way, Corey's running the other way. Like, I don't want to give up, Corey. Oh my God, he said something else other than California. And like they just come rushing back.
Yeah, this is very much the Jay and Silent Bob thing where he doesn't say much. So when he does, you pay attention, right? It's profound when he says something.
Everything's down in the dumps and it's like, hey, Silent Bob's got to say something to like keep everyone together and keep them going.
Good performances all around, though. The kid was really good. I think it's Luke Edwards. And he was very, very good. His silent performance, his reacting to things, just going with the flow a lot of the times. And one thing I also noted is like he kind of had this inner compass constantly driving him towards his goal. There's a point early on when he and Fred Savage stow away in a Hostess truck. And when it gets to wherever it's going, Jimmy just gets out and they show Fred Savage unfolding a map and looking at it. But Jimmy just starts walking. He just knows which way to go and he just starts walking.
For whatever reason, he just knows the direction to go to California.
There's something just driving him towards this goal that he has, which we can definitely talk about this openly, like what ultimately we find inside of the lunchbox that he carries around with him and what this is all leading towards, because this is the dinosaur in this movie. Joe, tell us about the dinosaur that appears in this movie. And maybe this will lead into, if you want to, like, I want to know why you picked this movie to review on this podcast.
So you're like, oh, what movie do you have to want to review? And I was like, looking at stuff, it's like, oh man, you know, it'd be really cool to talk about. It's like Detroit Rock City. You're like, it has to have robots and dinosaurs. I was like, wait a minute. And then The Wizard is the first thing that popped in my head because the dinosaur, you know, it could have just been a small scene. It could have just been a side thing. It's like, oh, the dinosaur, they passed by it. The dinosaur is so iconic in this movie. It is the end of the movie. It is Jimmy's goal is to get to that dinosaur and to bring that lunchbox with all the contents in there. It has so much value. It could have just been, like I said, it could have just been a dinosaur we saw on the side, and I was just like, hey, this movie has a dinosaur on the side. This is like the end point of the movie. Without this dinosaur, the movie doesn't end.
Yeah, that's very well said. This movie kind of tricked me almost in a way. And that's really not the word I wanted to use there, but I'm going to try to find the right word because it strung me along for a while where I felt like, you know what, this is very much a kid's movie where the stakes are so low. The stakes are always low whenever they're getting chased by somebody or whenever they have to do something and they're filming like an action sequence. Somebody trying to get a high score and people hyping them up around an arcade machine. And I thought about like, that's a challenge for them to make this an exciting film sequence, right? This like to turn that into an action scene. But they did that in a couple of creative ways. Okay, so what I mean by like it tricked me was I wasn't expecting the sucker punch at the end of like the emotional sucker punch of, oh my gosh, this is what has been driving this kid. This is why he's carrying around this lunchbox, and this is why this spot is so important to him.
Yeah, like the reasons just hit you and just, oh, this is why he's like that. It's not because he's mentally unstable or something. He's traumatized for something that happened. It's significant, you know?
Yeah. It's like the whole movie, you're like, you have all of the pieces except one, and the whole movie you're just searching for this one last piece, and when you find it, you see the whole picture.
You're like, what's in that box, kid? What's in that box? What's in that box? What's in that box?
And you know what? The movie plays with that too, because halfway through the box spills out and we see what's in it, but we still don't learn the total significance of it. So
you get just enough to know what it's for. In a lot of scenes, they easily could have left the lunchbox off screen or just like in the room. He's playing games with the lunchbox in the casino. It's between his legs as he's playing.
How deeply do you think to what degree do you think the lunchbox represents his sister?
It's everything. Like that's all he has of her besides memories. When they find out like what it is, even Corey, like Fred Savage's character is like, I would never guess that was in there because nothing exists. Like her shoe is in there from the accident from that day. Like that's even more. You're carrying around your sister's shoe in this box along with pictures of like when you were happier, a better time of like when they were all together. They were happy as a family. Losing a sister changes the dynamic of Jimmy and the whole family. Without them saying it, they had to get a divorce, right? Because of how Jimmy was acting. And, you know, she eventually met this other guy who is a dick, by the way. She never like just stops him. The worst thing she says to him is like, stop eating. Like,
he's the worst.
Put your kid in an institution. Put him in there. It's like, what's the kid doing to you? Like,
yeah, I did not like that guy. Yeah, I definitely got the sense to him, to Jimmy, he was carrying around Jennifer's soul in that lunchbox,
right.
You know, like that was his inspiration. That was what kept him going, is that he needed to put her to rest in some way. And I think it's fascinating that he leaves the lunchbox behind in the end when he finally reaches the inside of the dinosaur.
Yeah, and I believe he takes the picture out and leaves it against does he take the picture of the whole family and leave it against the lunchbox itself? I don't even remember.
I think he does, because he like takes one last look at it and just puts it down, but he definitely just walks away from the lunchbox. He doesn't need to carry it anymore. He doesn't feel the responsibility or the need to literally carry it around with him, carry this. He probably feels some sort of like guilt or something for what happened, and he doesn't feel the need to carry that anymore. And I think that's a really poignant ending.
If I remember correctly, the older brother was supposed to be watching them, and I believe she drowned and Jimmy couldn't swim. Yeah. So he watched her drown. He couldn't do anything of it. So that's why he's traumatized. And then over the years, it's like it's hitting him. Yeah, it's his sibling or whatever. They said that they were twins, so that's even more of a bond that they share.
Yeah, it's an unimaginable tragedy, and they just sort of like hint towards it at the beginning of the movie, and like we were talking about, it pays off the way that they reveal it at the end. It's not like this gotcha moment. It's just a perfect way to just show you the last bit. This is Jimmy. This is how Jimmy became the way he is right now.
Because they could have opened that lunchbox and it could have been an AI in there controlling him and be like, oh, he is a cyborg. That's why he's so good. And you would have been
man.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, or what if he had some sort of device that just like wirelessly speaks to arcade machines and makes the numbers rack up? That's his wizard power. Okay, so Christian Slater is the consummate teenager. He's just, you want like a teenager in 1989. Christian Slater is it. Everything about him, he's got the long hair, he's got the laid back attitude, man. And he's just like a really good, solid older brother. Fred Savage.
Oh, his solid older brother and laid back. That's how we lost Jennifer.
Okay, fair. Yeah. But he is idolized by Fred Savage. Like he is to his living siblings, a good older brother.
I don't think his character has any interaction with Jimmy.
That's true. That is very true.
They're in the same scenes together, but there's no conversation or anything with them. I wonder if Jimmy just hates him. You know, it's a kid's movie, but you can't show it. But like deep down, he hates and despises Nick.
That's a good point. Maybe Nick also feels like a sense of guilt, and he's distancing himself from Jimmy because it like reminds him of that day. Man, that got dark. You got deep on the wizard.
They didn't even know. Yeah,
man. But like, it just speaks to this movie being really, I don't even know the word for it.
There's a lot going on. If you know, a lot of people are like, oh, this movie's stupid, blah, blah. But it's like, it's a timeless classic that holds up. Me talking about it with you, I've seen this movie 100 times. I have a different viewpoint on it now because I'm having a conversation with you about it. I never would have thought about that if I didn't watch it the other day and had this conversation with you. I would never have thought about any of this with this movie. I've been like, oh yeah, the wizard.
Oh, that's great. That's really good to hear. Yeah, we want to like unlock new perspectives on some of these movies. That's definitely what I'm trying to do. So that's exciting to hear. Like the fact that this came out in '89. It's I think I've used this term a couple times. It's very much a time capsule. It's a very honest representation of what 1989 was like. It doesn't hide any of its blemishes.
Yeah, the best time capsule is that's how video games were. There wasn't. I mean, there was internet then, but like not as streamlined as now. Like when they revealed that they were playing Super Mario Brothers 3, everyone flipped out because no one knew.
Yes, I remember seeing this movie in the theater when I was 6 years old, Joe, and I lost my mind when they revealed Mario 3. I didn't even know there was a Mario 3.
Right. When I saw it, I was already playing Mario 3, or, I was playing Nintendo and Super Nintendo. It didn't have the same effect on me. I was just like, oh, video games, yeah! That's an amazing to hear from your perspective that you saw in the movie theater at the time, just was like, you were blown away. Because something like that, nowadays, they would have put that reveal in the trailer.
Yep.
And you would have been like, oh, whatever.
Dude, I was a Mario Brothers fiend too. I played like Mario Brothers with my older brother all the time and my older sister. And then Mario 2, I loved because I could be the princess and she floats. She's like the best character in that game. So I played those games all the time. When this movie came out, I was really excited about it because I knew just it was about these Nintendo games and arcade games that I loved. And I'm telling you, like when it got to that scene where they reveal that they're playing Mario Brothers 3, I was like, there's a Mario Brothers 3. It just, my 6-year-old brain couldn't take it. I haven't seen this movie since then. And I'm so glad that you brought it on because going back and watching it, it put me instantly back in that mindset, that nostalgic mindset of like that 6-year-old sitting in the theater. And I definitely had a bad misconception of this movie. Anytime I had thought about it between then and when I finally watched it today, I just remember this being like a commercial for Nintendo.
Right.
Like it just being like a commercial for Mario Brothers 3 ultimately. Like that was the whole thing.
Which is, and like, it's still pretty cool though that they made an entire movie to premiere Super Mario Brothers 3.
True.
That's insane.
True.
It wasn't even a commercial. It was just like, boom, here's this movie.
And even if it is that, even if I'm totally cynical and just write it off as that, the makers of it gave it a lot of heart, put a lot of effort into it, and got some, like you said, really good casting that does it a lot of favors.
Because even in this podcast, we were talking a lot about a lot more stuff before we even talked about the video games. Mm-hmm. We were talking about so much more of the movie before we even said, oh, hey, Double Dragon.
Yeah. Because you are a gamer, because you're a game fan, and I am too, I kept a running list of all of the games that appear in this movie. Thought it'd be fun to like kind of go through them. One thing before I go into the games themselves, I want to ask you, in 1989, does $50,000 sound like a realistic prize for something like Video Armageddon?
I want to say yeah. Because I want to say yeah, because I remember Saturday morning cartoons, and you'd watch these kids that win like the Toys R Us shopping spree, and they would get like $1,000. Yeah, and whatever you get in the cart is yours, and it's just like, what?
Or like Guts, or like any of those. Yeah, a lot of those had pretty big prizes. That's a good point. So that's
those were like 50,000, but they were worth going for these prizes because like what Legends of Hidden Temple and stuff. Oh, even Nick Arcade. You watch Nick Arcade growing up?
Yeah, totally.
I think they were like they gave away bikes, games, and like it was mostly vacations, if anything.
Well, you know, now that you put in those terms, this is sort of like this Video Armageddon was in a sense kind of like an early E3 because they premiered Mario Brothers 3 at it. And if this event had that much clout that a game that big from Nintendo could be premiering at it, and this is where they're revealing it, like that's got to be a big deal.
In the movie aspect, you say, hey, come to Video Armageddon, win $50,000. You don't even say there's going to be a premiere. Like people are like, $50,000? Like we got to see that. That's a lot of money in '89. And like people are going to go, and then they go and they see Mario Brothers 3. There's no price that you could put on that to go, I was there when they revealed that game. Like if our Video Armageddon was real, like this, it wasn't even just a movie, it was like a documentary. That's an amazing experience.
For some people, and I don't say this as a joke or an understatement, for some people that's their moon landing. Right. Witnessing something like that.
That's their Woodstock. Something big that like happened that you go, hey, I was there for that.
That's like a cultural milestone.
Right. Like that's something you never forget.
So Joe, I wrote down a list of these games that appear in this movie, and I kind of want to see like which of these you've played. So Double Dragon is one we talked a little bit about it. Yeah. Ninja Gaiden.
Yes. I own a lot of these games.
Yeah.
I still have the cards.
We see Mario Brothers 2, and Mario Brothers 3.
Which is a nice little foreshadowing, too, if you think about it. It's like they showed both previous games. Mm-hmm. And then Double Dragon was the first game they showed, right?
Yes, it was. Yes,
I
it was.
almost wish it was Mario Brothers. I almost wish Nick was playing Mario Brothers first. Then they were like, oh, here's Double Dragon. The beginning, the first part would have been 1. In the middle, they would have shown 2. And right at the end, it was like, boom, here's Mario Brothers 3.
Well, one thing that kind of gives him an edge during that competition that they play the groundwork for is the game that Christian Slater is playing is Mario Brothers 2, because that's already like in the console. So out of the games that he had access to, Mario Brothers was one of them that he was particularly good at or had a lot of practice at. So that set him up to have some kind of edge when Mario Brothers 3 was the surprise reveal. Like it wasn't completely out of his wheelhouse.
Right. You have the list. Like I didn't write down the list, but I wanted to see if I could remember. So let's see. It was Double Dragon.
Yep.
Rad Racer.
Yes.
It's Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
Then it was Zelda 2.
Yeah. Bizarrely, yeah.
I think there was a little bit Ninja Gaiden here and there.
Ninja Gaiden. And he was very good at Ninja Gaiden, actually.
Well, I want to call BS on that scene because Haley was like, oh, he didn't even take any damage. And he had 2 health points missing.
Ooh.
There's a lot of that in the, oh, we're doing this in the game. It's like they're not even at that part in the game.
Yeah, there was a point in the competition where they're like, oh, he has to start over at level 2. And on the screen, it shows level 1.
Yeah, it's
and
still
it's like,
world 1.
Guys, that's an easy editing mistake. Come on, let's.
Same thing when he was playing Ninja Turtles. He was like, oh, I'm on level 3 or whatever. And it's like he wasn't.
Yeah, I say this on my podcast that like the early episodes are very amateurly edited. So take my opinion with a grain of salt.
I did. You know what I did write down? The movie. Okay. A lot of people praise Ninja Turtles 1 and 2 because like the movie happens and it takes a while for Ninja Turtles to come out to like be seen. But like once they do, they make like a grand entrance. You don't see the first game doesn't get played till 16 minutes into this movie.
True. And that's another weird one where it's like we're going for a high score, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
It's very much an adventure game. Like the point is to like survive it till the end and see
like
the ending
it's
of it.
in there, but at the same time, it's like, it's just a score.
Okay, so some of the other games here, Donkey Kong, RC Pro-Am, F1 Dream, and Rad Racer, of course, and Contra.
Oh, yeah.
There was this game in an arcade called China Gate that I've never played, but it was in like the very bizarre kids casino at this in Reno, Nevada, the world's biggest little city. That's what she called it.
Yeah, I'm looking at little gameplay right now. Like it is one of those like bizarre looking games.
Yeah, I didn't recognize it. I've definitely never played it. And the last game that I actually looked up a list to compare my list, and I was missing one, which was Mega Man 2. I didn't see it. I didn't catch it at any point during the movie, but apparently that was also in there.
Oh man,
I missed it.
I think it's a scene when I want to say it is when Corey is like being all badass and has his glasses on and he tips the girl.
Yep.
He's like, keep the candy coming. I want to say that's when the Mega Man 2 was being played.
Okay. That's definitely where I saw China Gate. So there very well could have been Mega Man 2 as well. I have another video game question for you, Joe.
Okay.
When Jimmy is in this competition, he's playing Mario Brothers 3. This is the world premiere of Mario Brothers 3. Nobody has seen it or played it except for apparently Fred Savage, who seems to know a couple of secrets about Mario Brothers 3 that he shouts to Jimmy in the middle of the game.
Haley does too, and
yeah, controversy.
I also wonder, I almost wonder if, you know, when you go somewhere and you tip someone a good amount and it's like, hey man, like you come back and like, yo, free whatever on me. Haley was on the Nintendo hotline for a very long time.
True.
And she told them, hey, my guy, the wizard, is going to the championship. He's going to win. Give me every info you got. I wonder if he said, hey, they're going to reveal Super Mario Brothers 3. But at the same time, she was surprised by a game they've never played before.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little...
Yeah, like they were calling foul when they revealed that.
It's a hard... Like, I'm trying to say what I want to say, what, you know, made sense to me. But, like, if anyone could just, like, write into us, be like, what you guys think of, like...
Please do. Tell us your theories.
It's like a little puzzle of, how did they know? Is this how they knew? She's mad that they don't know.
Joe, let me run something by you.
What's that?
What if it was a front? What if they got tipped off, like you're saying, by the video game hotline operator, right?
Yeah.
Which totally tracks. I'm with you on this theory because they showed a lot of scenes where Haley's calling him. He's got coffee. He's like wearing different clothes because he's going through all these binders. He's spending hours and hours trying to help her out, answer all of her questions. So what if he gave her a hot tip about Mario Brothers 3, gave her some insider information, and she had to pretend, her and Fred Savage had to pretend. Right. So to do that, they pretended to be angry. They were like, oh, how dare you? This surprise game. We had no idea, you guys. What?
Yeah, because it's like in this movie universe, was Mario Brothers 3 announced? Mm-hmm. And just no one played it yet. You only played it at Armageddon. Oh, it's a game you've never played before. And it's like, oh, it's Super Mario Brothers 3. It's like, all right, we knew that was coming out, but like no one's got our hands on it yet. Yeah. But like, yeah, like did they just get tipped off? Did he have a grudge against Lucas? He's like, I know Lucas is gonna try to get in there. Use the warp.
Oh man, we are listeners, please write in with your theories. We want to get an answer on this.
Get the star, Jerry!
Yeah, how do they know? Well, the star thing, maybe they figured out through watching the other player get the star instead of the flower. Maybe they figured out that it was a higher score.
It's one of
That's
those things
reasonable.
Where it's like, oh, the star's worth more than a mushroom or a flower.
But like Jimmy knew, do you know, like we can unpack the particular secret that he uses to win because I've used it in order, like when playing Mario Brothers 3, you know, so can you describe it? Because for him to know about this is wild.
Yeah. For him to know to go, oh, I'm in this castle. I got to get the raccoon suit and fly above the door. While you watch the other people, they go in the door. They have no knowledge to fly over it. And it's a classic secret. It's like the Contra code or, you know, a wall you find in Zelda. There you go.
I literally have a Wild Bill's mug with a copper mug with the Konami code on it.
But it's like one of those classic, either you knew about it or you didn't. What a strange thing to know going into the competition.
Right? Interesting.
That's such a big deal.
We've blown this thing wide open. Joe, I remember I found out about that secret from one of my friends at school, literally like at recess. One of my friends was like, dude, I found out about this cool thing I read about in Nintendo Power or something like that. And he was like, listen, like you have to get the raccoon suit and you have to go to this level and you have to make it to this part and then you fly up, then you get this warp whistle. I remember like being so excited to go home and try it, and I tried it and I did it. That's how I found out about it. We didn't have the internet, so
and
recess was the internet.
It's something so simple like that. I miss conversations like that. Like when I was growing up, there was all those little conversations like you had. I remember when Pokemon was out. I was in elementary school, or Final Fantasy VII. Like these kids would just make up wild accusations. It was like, oh, if you do this, and that, and go to SSN, you could push the truck, and you get Mew.
Or Luigi is somewhere hidden in Mario 64.
Or it's like you could bring Aerith back in 7. What's some other? Those like the 3 main ones. Or if in Mario Brothers 3, if you collected all the whistles and used them all at the same time, you go to a secret world besides like 8. And it's like, no.
It's interesting, and I think it's a fun like fan theory about this movie. But I would like to know if anybody has.
Why do they know that the warp is in Mario Brothers 3?
Because I can't imagine accidentally discovering that. Nobody that I knew.
No. In that short of a period of a time that they have, 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes?
Nobody I knew found out about it other than like through Nintendo Power or through like somebody telling them about it because they found out about it from somebody else.
I would love to see the flash animation where it's that scene, and then Lucas loses and goes, "You guys are cheaters," and he calls them out. There's no way they would know that's there.
Lucas is the Billy from Karate Kid in this movie.
Jimmy just gets stripped of his Armageddon title. He loses the $50K, and it just goes to Lucas because all 3 of them were caught cheating.
There's also a little detail in this movie that I wrote down because it was when they were in Universal Studios, and there's like a tour guide driving one of the tour buses, and he mentions that they were looking at the filming studio for a movie called Mayhem in Monte Carlo, starring Zsa Zsa Gabor and Pee Wee Herman as the romantic leads. I looked up this movie and I could not find it, Joe. Is this something that they just made up for this scene?
I wonder if Pee-wee's Adventure was out.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I wonder if it was like the Pee-wee's Adventure like stock. When they make a movie, they don't say, "Oh, we're filming Ghostbusters." They make up another name, so they don't have to pay higher fees and stuff, and like you kind of hide it. I was like wondering if that was Pee-wee's, but Pee-wee's came out in '85.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I would have to look up, but
Is maybe like Mayhem in Monte Carlo is like a bit in Pee-wee's Playhouse, like in the Pee-wee Big Adventure movie, and they film what maybe they're like referring to filming. You know how Angels with Filthy Souls is a movie that only exists in the Home Alone universe. You know, they filmed a scene of it for Home Alone because it's the clip that plays. Maybe this is a thing where Mayhem in Monte Carlo is a movie in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I don't know.
yeah, because like there's a book, but then like if I like look it up, someone timestamped it for exactly. It is 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 38 seconds where they say starring Zaza Gabor and Pee Wee Herman in the romantic leads.
It's such a funny line out of context.
Yeah. And then who's Paul Meaners? How about that? Maybe if I look that guy up.
Paul who?
Paul Meaners?
I'm not sure.
Because it says
sure.
Paul Meaners' next motion picture, Mayhem in Monte Carlo is a book.
This mystery goes deep. See, this movie, this very simple 1989 movie about Mario Brothers 3 and the Power Glove is actually
Who's this Paul guy? Like nothing comes up.
Really? Yeah. Okay. So I definitely think it's just a fun little detail that they had when writing the script. Yeah. Let's like make up a movie that Pee Wee Herman and Josh Kapoor would be romantic leads in. That's really funny. There is
a Zaza. She does visit him. There is a clip that he visits her for Christmas in a Christmas episode.
Ooh, okay. Maybe
So
okay.
Zaza was definitely on Pee Wee Herman.
There it is. Okay, well, I'll need to follow up on that. I'll need to watch the Christmas special of Pee Wee's Playhouse and see Zsa Gabor. There is one robot in this movie, definitively, unmistakably, is a robot in every sense of the word. It's during the Universal Studios tour. You might call it an animatronic more than a robot.
I would still say, you know,
Well, that's
say a robot. Like
that's my question. Is this King Kong robot, animatronic King Kong?
Absolutely,
Is this a robot?
It's got the AI. It's got the wires. It's got all the parts for being a robot. It's not just going to do that stuff by itself. You have to program it. It's got all these functions, all these buttons. It is 100% a robot.
I agree. And it's thematic because of, you know, of course, Donkey Kong. It kind of gives us this like visual language of like the kids traversing this scaffolding with this giant gorilla just sort of like swinging its arms up in the distance. And it's kind of like a neat little, I think it's a subtle little nod or homage to Donkey Kong.
I would say another update to everyone that this movie does take place in Universal Studios.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember when they announced it, but they are building a Super Mario Land in Universal Studios.
Oh man!
So it's kind of goes hand in hand now. Like I know it's been such a long time, but they are building a Mario Land.
Cool. Have you been to Universal Studios?
I have not. I've been to Disney 2 or 3 years ago for the first time.
Okay, Joe. I think if you're a movie fan, you would love Universal Studios because I don't know which of the classic rides they still have, but the King Kong ride was really fun. The Jaws ride was a blast. There is a good Jurassic Park ride. They still have some of these like kind of cheesy but fun on rails cart rides where there's just animatronics every once in a while that pop up and just rawr.
When I went to Disney 2 or 3 years ago, a lot of the rides are animatronics, which is kind of disappointing, but it's still, you know, I want to see it. I want to be there.
So at the same time, there's also like the Universal Studios Islands of Adventure, where they have like the 4D Spider-Man ride and like that's really cool. But I don't know. You know what? This is kind of like a theme in Robots versus Dinosaurs. Like the animatronics are kind of like the old, outdated ones, but they still have this charm. And then you got like all this high tech like VR stuff, kind of like we were talking about with
which doesn't, you know, all that stuff is cool and all, but it doesn't have the same nostalgic classic feel. Like when I went to Six Flags, they had SpongeBob 4D. They probably had it there for that 1 year, and then it was gone.
Yeah,
you're going to Universal. That stuff is there forever, you know, to an extent.
And I think like just to tie this in some kind of bow for this movie, I think the fact that this movie features a literally tangible dinosaur, like one that doesn't move, one that is not animated in any way. It's one that a kid touches. He sits on it when he's young, and it creates this memory of sitting on the toenail of this colossal dinosaur statue with my sister, with my whole family as the sun is setting. And it's this beautiful memory that he has because of this tangible thing. There's something really cool about that to me, something really big about that has stuck with me. And like with you, like it's really, this movie has stuck in your mind. And I think that image is a big part of it. Would you agree with that?
I would say the same way Jimmy feels about the dinosaur is how you feel about King Kong, because you've physically been there. You've been on that King Kong ride. And when you see it in the movie, you go, hey, I was there. I know that. Like, wow. There's a lot of scenes where they're walking around Universal. It's not just like, oh, they're inside. Oh, you see a lot of stuff. Even like the monsters, like I believe the Mummy. I think the Mummy was in there. I think there was a werewolf in there. It definitely was Frankenstein.
Yep.
Was following the bad guy. You get that sense of nostalgia, like, oh, I've been there. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I guess for a lot of people now, Spider-Man would be the best example, because there's a lot of movies in Spider-Man where he's in Times Square, or he's somewhere in New York, and you go, oh, I've been there. Like, wow. Or even recently the Joker, I believe, was in Brooklyn. I want to say it was Brooklyn or Manhattan, where they had those stairs.
I think it was the Bronx. I think
the Bronx. Where they had those stairs and everyone went there. That's in my neighborhood. You feel that connection.
Yeah, that's true. Shout out to Grandma for taking me to Universal Studios when I was like 7 years old. For real, like definitely forming a lot of those really fun, cool early memories. This was such a fun nostalgia trip. This is a good example of why I love robots, why I love dinosaurs. I love this movie. I really did.
I would say
I'm glad that I revisited it.
I would say the one robot that's missing from here, I don't even know if he was outdooring. Rob the robot, I kind of wish was in here.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be a really cool. I also, you know what I would have taken is like if they had a scene with the power mat. What was it called? The
for track and field.
The track and field pad. Yeah, the track pad. That thing was amazing. Joe, I have 2 bonus questions.
Yes.
Okay. First bonus question. Joe, this is a section of Robots versus Dinosaurs called What's Your Snack? Joe, what's your snack?
What's my snack that I'm currently eating?
Sure. So in the context of what I usually ask is like when you used to go to a movie theater, did you have a favorite snack or did you bring in snacks? Because I sometimes sneak snacks in. And is there like a movie snack that you have at home now that you have to watch movies at home all the time?
My grandmother, we used to go with her all the time to the movie theaters. And grandma's got big purse. You go to grandma. You go to like Kmart or Bradley's or something, Caldors, you get the candy, put it in there, and you just walk right in. You ain't gonna check grandma for no food or anything. You snack up.
No. What are you, a monster? You're gonna search grandma like she's a criminal?
I remember my cousins wanted to see Bring It On. My uncle wanted to bring us to go see it, and I was like, all right, let's go. I remember for no reason getting popcorn, which, I love popcorn, and getting Mike and Ike's, and I love Mike and Ike's. That's my snack, is Mike and Ike's. But for whatever reason, I took all the Mike and Ike's and put them in the popcorn.
Oh.
So I was just mixing them. I would just grab it with my hand, just eat it. I don't know why. I've never done it again, but that happened.
A lot of my guests talk about mixing like snow caps or M&Ms with popcorn, but not Mike and Ike's. You're a maniac, Joe. You're a maniac. I am definitely like a big fan of fruit candies like Sour Patch Kids. And my favorite thing is Australian licorice. And I talk about it a lot in a lot of episodes. But I watched this movie back to back with another movie that I reviewed today, which was Rocky IV. Yeah, so I'd had like half a bag of licorice with that movie. So I finished the bag when I was watching this.
You gotta watch Rocky IV before they take the robot out.
Yo, I know oh my God, we were so, it was my friend Steve. We are both so upset about it. Listen to that episode for more of my thoughts on it. But man, I'm so upset. It's not right. That robot's a very important character in the movie.
And what I said to you on Discord was that robot represents how stupidly rich Rocky became and how they just bought whatever they forgot where they came from. Exactly. I think that's such an iconic thing in that movie. If you think it's stupid, that's fine. But like, that's what it represents.
Yes, his excess, and it lays the groundwork for his downfall in Rocky V when he's bankrupt because he spent so much money on frivolous things like a robot. And
Not even for himself.
for Paulie, who's so ungrateful. I could talk about Paulie. I almost talked about Paulie for that whole podcast. I could talk about him for like another hour. I could talk about Paulie. Oh my gosh. Listeners, we need to start a petition. Hashtag save Seiko. Hashtag save the robot.
He has a name? Oh, wow.
Yes. Look into this. Actually, we were circling around a little bit how this movie circles around, talking about Jimmy, right? In the context of him maybe being a little bit on the spectrum or something. Mm-hmm. My guest, Steven, told me that the robot in Rocky IV was developed as I want to say like an autistic interpreter in some way. Like it was designed to interact with autistic people to sort of facilitate interacting with them in some ways because it just had more ease of communication or something like that.
So was it just like a prop and Rocky was an actual functioning robot?
The story is that Sylvester Stallone, one of his kids, is on the spectrum, and that's how he knew about the robot in the first place. So it's even more baffling for him to take it out of the movie since it has like such a touching backstory, right?
Now it's product placement too. What are you doing, Stallone? What are you doing?
What are you doing, Stallone? Keep the robot. Hashtag save the robot. We need support on this. I have one more bonus question, Joe.
Yes.
Joe, I know you said unequivocally early on in this podcast that you would not replace any of the actors in this movie. It's perfectly cast. But I have to ask you, because I ask every guest, if we were to replace two of the characters in this movie with Zsa Zsa Gabor and Pee Wee Herman. No, I'm just kidding. But we should play that game. But the real question is Danny DeVito and Whoopi Goldberg. Which two characters, and how would it improve the movie?
Whoopi Goldberg would be hands down the villain. She would be the guy that goes to capture the kids and bring them back.
Putnam?
Yeah, Putnam. I feel like she would fit that role perfectly. She's just a bounty hunter.
Oh God, that's perfect.
I say that, and that one scene wouldn't even work then, where Putnam gets in trouble for touching her breast. That scene wouldn't work.
That scene is wicked crazy. Oh my God.
She would be like, I'm a woman too. What are you talking about? Like,
oh goodness. Yeah.
She puts her nun outfit on. She's like, I'm a nun. I wouldn't do a thing like that.
Yep. Putnam is a maniac in this movie, but having Whoopi Goldberg play him would definitely like soften the blow on a lot of the weird stuff that he does.
Oh wow. I'd almost want Whoopi Goldberg as that character, but she's a nun. And Jimmy and Corey got out of foster care, like in Problem Child, where he's in the nun's foster care or whatever.
Okay.
Where she's trying to get them back because they escaped. And then she finds out, oh, wow, they're going to win $50,000 for the Lord.
Oh, man. Yes, dude, I think we're writing the sequel.
Yeah, there you go. Or, we got to reboot everything.
Where are we putting DeVito?
Oh, man. It's like I want to say like the host of Video Game Armageddon.
Oh, that's inspired.
But that's not enough screen time.
True. But like Jimmy, where he says a little, but he says a lot when he does it.
Yeah.
Just a little cameo DeVito, that could work.
It's like, yeah, but like I also want him like...
Fred Savage. You want him to be Fred Savage. Just you could say it's Corey.
No,
no.
I want to say Bridges' character. He was a cool dad in Matilda. He didn't give a damn about stuff, but like he was a cool dad. I could see him as a dad figure in this movie.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, if you want me to replace the kid characters with adults, let's get Sean Penn in as Jimmy.
Sean Penn. Oh goodness.
And then we'll get the other we'll get the other Savage kid to play Fred Savage's parts. Perfect.
It could also be Dustin Hoffman because this movie is basically Rain Man Jr. I think that's what it was going for in a lot of ways. Well, Joe, I can't thank you enough for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Dude, this was really fun. I'm glad that we talked about this movie. This movie really is a lot more touching than you're expecting it to be. It's a lot more deep and emotional.
Yeah.
I think you're expecting it to be. when you hear about it. So if you have not checked out this movie, I'm not going to apologize that we spoiled it.
That's what this is for. We're here to have a discussion about it. But
yeah, we assumed that you watched the movie. But if you haven't, I'm not mad at you, and I just want you to watch it because it's really good. And I want you to have a bad taste.
It's like if you have a bad taste in your mouth for this movie, I think you need to rewatch it again.
Yes. Yeah. If you were like me and you had a limited memory of it being just a 2-hour commercial for Nintendo, that is not true. And it's actually a very heartwarming story, a good family brother story, road movie. It's a lot of things, and it's really entertaining. Joe, do you have any final thoughts on it before we wrap up?
Go see.
I want to hear your final.
Go see The Wizard. There's a lot, we've talked about a lot that I don't think other people would even bother to unwrap for this movie. We didn't even touch on the villains. There's a lot of villains in this movie.
Let's spend a couple minutes on that.
There's the two men in the truck that they're supposed to have the writer's code, and they legit steal over $100 from these kids.
This movie has a lot of just adults robbing kids.
Yeah. There's the stepfather who does not care about Jimmy.
Yep.
He wants him away for whatever reason. And there's the 3 video heads. And I've seen this movie 100 times. I cracked up when they're in the diner and the video game head has the hat that he took. And that whole scene just cracked me up, his reaction. Yeah. And then Putnam is on a whole other level. I wrote in my notes, he pops the tires of Bridges and their car. And then they have this battle. And he's like, "You're a maniac." It's you started it. You legit started it.
Slashed 2 of the tires on their truck with your knife, and then you wielded the knife in their face. He's crazy.
I wrote down in my notes. Haley is super impressed that Lucas has 97 games and knows all of them. Savage keeps looking at Haley while Lucas plays, but Haley is so turned on by Lucas using the Power Glove and his 97 video game knowledge.
That's true. Man, in 89, you could not be cooler than having Ray-Ban sunglasses and knowing 97 Nintendo games.
I would like, if people are messaging in, I would like to know, how much do you think Putnam is getting paid to bring Jimmy back?
Good question, because it has to be worth all of the damage to his car and all of he pays people off for small favors and stuff.
He paid $50 to get the car towed. It has all the damages, whatever food, whatever.
Yeah, what's his per diem?
And his gas. I wrote one of the most baffling things to me in this movie. It drove me bananas. You see Putman a lot of times on a payphone, but there is one scene where he's just in his car on the phone.
It's 1989.
Why is he using the payphone sometimes, but other times he's just in his car? Was it just edited wrong, or does he have a phone in his car?
I would say, Joe, that it's cost cutting, because the car phone is obviously going to be more expensive than a pay phone. So I'd say, he's being thrifty, he's being savvy, but he's not being thrifty in any other situation. Right. He acts like he just has money to burn, as though this kid, this is actually, this is an interesting facet of this movie too. Another layer that it's operating on. Everybody in this kid's life is trying to use him for profit. We never find out, really. Well, we do. We don't never find out, but we don't for a long time find out whether Jimmy cares about this video game tournament, whether he wants to go to Video Game Armageddon or not. It's Fred Savage, it's Corey driving him towards it, and Haley giving them the idea that they're going to make $50,000 off of his efforts, right? And
I don't even think the goal is for them to get $50,000. I think the goal is to get to California.
For Jimmy, it is. Right. For Jimmy, that's the goal. And so they're in a way exploiting him to make money.
I think Haley wanted 10% or something.
I think she wanted half. I'm pretty sure she wanted to split it.
It was some number. I think it was 10% or half, or it's
she's a savvy businesswoman. But the other thing is Putnam. Putnam's trying to make money off of this kid. To him, he's
I want to know
he's just
how much he is getting paid.
That's a very good question. I want to know too. Listeners, please write in your theories on this. Anybody that can give us a number.
There was one scene that just drove me bonkers. They have 2 confrontations with the cars battling each other. In the final one, Bridges is kind of chasing him, but stops because he's driving away. But then Putman is at a red light, and they're just acting like he got far away in the next scene. It's like, he's right there. You can go get him. It's just like, what a weird editing to just have like the light red and he's just sitting there. You could throw a rock and probably hit his car.
Yeah, there are moments where the stakes are remarkably low in the movie. It's a weird balance, but it balances in the end. I think it has a good, strong ending.
Yep.
And I love this movie. Is this movie a +1 or a -1 for robots and for dinosaurs?
A +1 is because it's, it's a little bit of a dinosaur at the end, like I said, but it's such a significant thing to this movie. It's not like, oh, they played an arcade game and a dinosaur. The dinosaur has everything to do with the ending to tie it all together. The robots in this movie, the animatronic King Kong, I wasn't even thinking about that until you brought it up. Because I was thinking, you were like, oh, what are the robots in this movie? And I was like, oh, the AI. Because like I would think games as like AI, just like as a robot. But then you brought the animatronics and I was like, oh, wow, there's more robots in here too. And that's a big scene too. Cause like that's a chase scene getting away like before they get to Armageddon for the final. Jimmy! He just calms down.
Yo, he makes an entrance.
I love this movie. +1 for robots and dinosaurs.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you for bringing this under my radar again, having me rewatch it and getting to talk about it with one of its biggest fans. This was really fun for me. I really loved this. Joe, I talked to you a bit about this before we recorded, but I would like to maybe run this by you on air. I want to try to have some sort of Discord gamer get together for Robots versus Dinosaurs fans. For anybody that is like also a gamer that is looking for other gamers to connect with and like play online games with, or like competitive or cooperative games with. I'd like to have some sort of like small community for that, because everybody's in these times, everyone's looking for ways to connect.
Right.
And I think that could be a good positive.
And it's always nice to have newer venues to get into. And it's, I've known you for a long time. It's just like we instantly clicked.
Yeah,
when we were doing the Ghostbusters thing. It's just like, that's how, when you guys listen to our podcast, you're just going to instantly click with us and feel like you've known us forever. You should just get in this Discord, play games or whatever. I would say if you get enough people, do a movie night. Do the Wizard. Have a drinking game. Every time they say California, everyone in Discord take a shot.
That could be really fun.
They say California a lot of times. I want to know the number. I was going to count it. I was like, oh, but I want to rewind it. And I want to sit there and just enjoy it for its full.
But like having like a Zoom call, like doing like a big, or like a Discord call and like having a big drinking game with a bunch of other people, or like if you don't drink, that's cool too. Just like if you want to join in and hang out, like I think that'd be really fun. And I think a lot of people would be into that. So yeah, let's put that together. Let's talk about that. But thank you again for your time today, Joe.
Thank you for having me.
So great. We've said that a bunch of times, but it really can't be said enough. And I definitely hope to have you back on a future episode.
Yeah, if anyone wants to write in what suggestions we should have, like I'm going to think of something. I'm going to run it by you. I was legit thinking all the Land Before Time. But I don't know.
Well, we did cover the first one on a previous episode. You can check that one out.
What do you got? 13 or 14 more to cover?
Yeah, I counted 13 total. There may be some more in the works, and I think there's like a series that I haven't.
Definitely a series.
Yeah, but there's a lot of source material, a lot of lore.
I would say if I was to come back, I would either want to do maybe Ernest Goes to School, or The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes with Kirk Cameron.
Solid choices. All right, those are, I think, some good teasers for future episodes. Let's talk about those in the future. Joe, thank you again for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, man.
You. Hello.